VPNs are designed to protect your data. Leaking that data is just about the worst thing that could happen when using one. I know that, you know that, that's why you're here, so let's get straight into it. In this video, we'll cover IP leaks, DNS leaks, WebRTC leaks, and HTML5 geolocation leaks. And those are the big four that really matter. We'll explain what they are, what they do, and how you can check your VPN for them, and then of course, how you can fix them. My name is Callum, this is Top 10 VPN, let's get started. There's a couple of ways we could go about this, but I think the best is to first explain what each type of leak is, and then come back and explain how you can fix each one of them. And you can use the timestamps along the bottom of the video to find the one that you want to skip to. The first and most important type of leak is the IP leak. This is when your IP address is visible when you're using a VPN rather than the IP address of your chosen VPN server. I imagine you have a vague idea of how this sort of thing works, given that you're using a VPN in the first place, but just to clarify, your IP address is a unique identifying code assigned to you when you use the internet. It can change from time to time, but it will always be yours and yours alone. The big appeal of VPNs is that they hide your IP address and show other websites and services a replacement one instead. Technically, there are two different types of IP address, IPv4 and IPv6. You might have an IPv6 address, but you'll definitely have an IPv4 address. The good news is that IPv6 leaks are far more common than IPv4 leaks. If a VPN leaks either, then it's failing at a very fundamental level, as your IP address simply isn't being properly tunneled and everyone online can see who you really are. Next is DNS leaks. If an IP is like your digital home street address, then DNS is a bit like the digital phone book. Every website and URL is really just an IP address, but it's DNS that allows us to contact them via catchier, more sensible names, like top10vpn.com. And whenever you visit a website, your browser sends a query to a DNS server, which looks up the IP address associated with that domain name. It will then communicate with that IP address and fetch you the website or online service that you're looking for. Ordinarily, this is handled by your ISP's DNS, but you're using a VPN to keep that stuff hidden, right? So instead, it'll be encrypted and handled via your VPN's very own private DNS servers. If these requests leak, then they go right back to being handled by your ISP, and this means that they can see all the websites you're visiting, as can anyone spying on you. Oftentimes this happens when the VPN hasn't properly configured its DNS servers, or it could be because something else on your device is messing around with your DNS settings, or maybe you've been playing around with them yourself. Malware can also have the same effect, and sometimes even your ISP can be the one redirecting your DNS queries, bypassing your preferred configuration. Next is WebRTC leaks. Web real-time communication is the service through which your web browser and apps can communicate in real time, basically voice or video chat. It's also enabled by default in most browsers. In order for it to work, it needs to use personal things like your IP address. And when your VPN's WebRTC tunneling fails, your information is exposed to the websites and third parties that are using it. WebRTC leaks are shockingly common, particularly among free mobile VPNs, where our testing discovered 1 in 5 free Android VPNs suffers from them. Finally, there's HTML5 geolocation leaks. And to put this one very, very simply, your geolocation is kind of what it sounds like. It's what your web browser interprets as being your real-world physical location. It uses a number of factors to glean this information and is especially accurate on mobile devices where it can use things like your GPS signal to really pin you down. Incidentally, things that give you away, like your longitude and latitude, can't be tunneled by a VPN. If you want to check your own VPN for any of these leaks, then the link to our very own purpose-built leak test tool is in the description to this video. It's definitely worth doing if you've just set up a new VPN. But enough of the doom and gloom, and if you're getting headaches from any of these leak issues, then let's take a look at how to fix them. How to fix IP leaks. This depends largely on what IP address is leaking. If it's IPv6, you're in luck, as this is the more common issue. And the ideal solution is that your VPN happens to have an IPv6 leak protection option somewhere in its settings menu that ended up turned off for some reason. Sometimes this will ensure the proper tunneling of your IPv6 address, other times it will simply disable it altogether. If that's not an option, then something to check is that your VPN actually supports IPv6 at all. It sounds crazy, but some really big names only properly adopted IPv6 pretty recently. If it does, then make sure you haven't adjusted any protocol settings that might interfere with it. Resetting all the VPN's options to default is a good idea. If you still can't get it fixed, then the nuclear option is to manually disable IPv6 on your device. Obviously, this will completely stop your IPv6 connectivity, so it's not an option if that's something that you need. But other than that, there's no real harm to it. I'll put a link in the description for the full steps on how to do this on all the various popular operating systems and devices. If it's the IPv4 address that's leaking, then we're in real trouble. There's nothing you can do in this instance that will guarantee a fix, as it's such a fundamental and rare issue, but there are still some steps that you can check. First and foremost, make sure your VPN is up to date. I know what it's like, and I sometimes ignore that little banner prompt too, but with VPNs, it's a really bad idea to let them fall too far out of date. You should also make sure that you don't have any other VPN software running at the same time. If that hasn't worked, then I'm afraid I have to suggest Old Faithful. Try turning it off and on again. Then connect to a different server and see what happens. If that doesn't help, make sure to double check that the split tunneling is disabled. Split tunneling is a feature common in VPNs which allows for you to force certain programs outside of the VPN's coverage. If you've tunneled your web browser, then any IP address checks you perform won't show your VPN IP address. Failing that, then we've reached something of an impasse. As a final Hail Mary, try messaging your VPN's customer support. They might be aware of the issue, or they might have some alternative suggestions to try. Speaking personally, my advice if your VPN is leaking your IPv4 address, though, would be to get a different one. IPv4 leaks are both catastrophic and rare. If it's a recurring issue, that tells me that the VPN you're using isn't to be trusted. How to fix DNS leaks. There are two sorts of DNS leaks. There are leaks to your ISP's DNS and leaks to third-party DNS. Third-party DNS is what we call the DNS service offered by companies like Google or Cloudflare. Technically, there's nothing wrong with using these. Some VPN services even use them themselves. Your ISP still won't see what you're up to, but whatever company you're using for their DNS will, of course. If you've manually set your DNS to one of these, then feel free to ignore this leak. If what you're seeing is your ISP's DNS though, then you have a proper leak. Once again, the simplest way to fix this is to pick a new VPN which has its own first-party self-maintained DNS servers. That way you can be sure your browser requests won't be exposed. If you're happy to stick with your VPN though, a quick fix is to manually configure your DNS to one of those third-party DNSs that we mentioned a moment ago. Now, this might sound a little complex, but actually it isn't. It's really surprisingly simple, and you can do it on any platform. I won't go through it all here, as that would go on for a really, really long time, but I will put full instructions in the comments so that you can follow along and try it yourself. How to fix WebRTC leaks. WebRTC leaks are primarily a browser issue more than a VPN issue. Some VPNs may offer you a disable WebRTC setting somewhere in their menu, which is very handy, but if not, you'll need to address it yourself via the browser. One interesting thing here is that Google Chrome, the browser you may well be using right now, does not allow WebRTC disabling. If you're a Chrome user, we recommend either using uBlock Origin or the WebRTC leak prevent extensions that will do it for you instead. If you're using any other browser, I'll put instructions on how to disable WebRTC in the description. Of course, you may have realized that these solutions all involve disabling WebRTC, meaning that you can't use it. It's a shame, but due to the nature of WebRTC and how it runs through your browser, that's really all you can do to fix it leaking, if your VPN can't stop it. How to fix HTML5 geolocation leaks. And the good news about HTML5 geolocation is that it's a purely permission-based technology, and that means it'll only run if you allow it to. If you've ever gone to a website and seen a pop-up asking for it to know your location, then you've already seen it in action. And what's more, disabling it is really simple. You can usually find it under your browser's privacy and location settings. Fair warning though, that this can lead to some other issues arising. Some websites won't grant you access without knowing your location, while others may just sort of break entirely. The ideal solution is to pick a VPN with a geolocation spoofer built in. It's pretty rare for a VPN to be able to do this at app level, but there are some that offer it as a feature in their browser extensions. This won't just block those leaks, but it'll also make your life a lot easier if you're trying to access foreign streaming sites and libraries, for example. For the quickest, easiest, and most comprehensive way to check for all of these leaks and more, I naturally recommend that you use the Top 10 VPN leak testing tool. We built it ourselves, specifically with VPNs in mind, so that you can know exactly what data is and isn't being protected by your VPN. The page also has tons more in-depth information about all the different types of leaks, why they occur, and how they affect you. It's totally free with no ads, and it doesn't log any of your data, so you may as well give it a go. If you're using a VPN, then you should be making absolutely sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's the very least you deserve, particularly if it's costing you money. And just because a VPN works for one user, it's not guaranteed that it'll work for you without a little tweaking. You don't have to check it every time you log on, but a quick checkup every once in a while is a smart move. I hope you found this information useful, and if you have any questions about any particulars or issues that you're having, then I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Maybe we can work through it together. Best of luck, stay safe, and I'll see you later.